This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, True Seekers and True Crime Junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome to the show today Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And Harriet Suchet.
And I'll say good morning, everybody, too.
It's so good to hear from you. Every day is a blessing. I tell you what, Harriet, after what you've been through. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I'm one-handed again, so my right hand has got an IV thing in it. Anyways, let's continue with the show, because it's still a great week.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we can just climb right on into it. I actually had some interesting news I wanted to share first. I just found out that a girlfriend of mine who was facing a liver transplant had a MELD score of 40, which if you don't know what a MELD score is, it relates to your liver toxicity, its ability to filter toxins and poisons out of your body. And basically she had nearly died, basically, in my mind. Seeing her, I thought without a liver transplant, she was going to pass away. But I have followed the path and the line of healthy food and eating food that eats what it's supposed to eat, not what we farm feed it. Pasture-raised, grass-fed, all organic, natural, the best sources of food that you could possibly have. And my girlfriend finally took the concept within the last couple months and decided to strictly eat the Dr. Gundry plant paradox diet, in which case her MELD score had come from 40 down to 22. Now, healthy livers are 7 and below. So she's still about 15 points away from being back in a healthy state. But here's to livers being able to heal and kidneys being able to heal as long as you're providing your body with the right food source. So I like to promote Dr. Gundry as much as I possibly can in efforts to show, America as a whole that majority of the food that's on our store shelves are really causing us the issues, the medical headaches, and all of the diseases and disorders that we're facing. So that's the first miracle I've seen come from Dr. Gundry's book. So I really just wanted to kind of share that with people. She's actually afraid now they're going to take her off the transplant list because her numbers are so low. But to me, that seems like a good thing, not to have to suffer a surgery on top of, getting well, because that could also set her back as well. I mean, going under the knife, that's a stress on the body. The medications that's going to take for her body to adapt to a strange liver, all of the things that could cause complications in the long run as well, when if she can simply heal her body through the natural act of eating food that is good for your body, is probably the best way to do anything. Anyways, yay, Dr. Gundry.
It's a great story.
It is. I'm so excited. What's that?
If it works, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So,
well, the problem is she, and I've been telling her for quite some time. So she's had liver issues for over a year and a half. They diagnosed it as Gilbert syndrome. My daughter has the same thing. Her children have been diagnosed with it because she has it and her husband has it. The kids are now carriers of it, which means that their livers do not process. So I started to wonder whether or not that diagnosis was just something that they've used to label an issue, which is really food related, versus versus figuring out what it is. Let's just throw some drugs at it. We know Western medicine is great for that. So I was interested in seeing this actively work on somebody because everybody wants to fight me on it. I don't have the money for that kind of food. Well, you don't really have the money for anything else if you're not alive and well enough to do anything with it, right?
Stay alive first, and then
you don't have
stay alive first.
I was gonna. Oh, April 1st? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, if you, I think the argument is if you think you can't try to scramble to afford, if that's the case for her or anybody in that position, if you can't scramble to afford the foods, just think what's happened with the liver transplant. And, your insurance doesn't pay for all of it, and you're trying to scramble to pay for all that.
Exactly. Yeah. Medical costs seem to be, we pay more in medical costs than we pay for our food in the United States. Whereas in China, they pay more for their food than they do for their medical costs. So that's kind of living proof right there that based on what you're collectively eating and putting into your body really determines how much time you're going to spend in the hospital or being affected by diseases and disorders that are going to cost you that kind of money. So we're just a little bit backwards here. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Oh, I was really kind of excited to hear that they're trying to stop the advertisements of Big Pharma on TV. Have you guys heard about that?
No, I have not.
Yeah, we get free cable where I'm at, and it's every other commercial.
It's disgusting.
Well, we're not going to name the products.
Right.
And,
I like the side effects of all those drugs.
That's what's even scarier. Like, try to sell that to me because diarrhea is like the number one reason I'm not going to take something. And if you tell me that that's a potential symptom, it's likely I am not going to take it.
Chance of stroke or heart attack.
Yeah, all of these.
Uncontrollable belching.
Well, all of that is your immune system that is very agitated and upset. So that's why I say if I see that it's going to cause me diarrhea, I'm wrecking my immune system by putting that into my system. So no, thank you. I'll leave it alone. All right, back to our little our presentation here. We're hopping back into, it looks like August 21st of 1981. Alton Francis Hannes on Highway 59, 1/10 of a mile north of Roman Forest, New Caney, Texas, is our first murder back. Orange, it says that involved was an orange 1979 truck parked on the northbound shoulder of Highway 59 with a Chevrolet possible brand, dark colored truck with a small camper shell parked in front of it. Body of a male was observed lying on the roadway next to the orange truck as the truck with the camper shell drove away. Now, we know that Jack drove a blue truck with a camper shell in circa 75, 76. I don't know how long he had that particular truck, but interesting that they are commenting on a dark colored truck with a small camper shell. It shows that the individual was shot multiple times during what appeared to be a robbery. I don't know why I equated this to a long time Jack method, other than the fact that Dennis believed that Jack was robbing victims and taking their jewelry or so forth to Nevada, selling it or melting it down and selling it. Is that your recollection, Harriet?
Yeah, I believe that was a few of his stories when he would talk about the Zodiac, when he lived in Lower Lake. So that was at his timing. He would say, I'm only going to do the cases when I decide to talk about it, which was often.
Gotcha.
I think the robberies were incidental to the killing.
Right.
And a lot of times he would do things to make it look like a robbery. But
well,
he would also take... Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, just like he would take things from one crime scene and leave them at the next crime scene as links to show the trail, just to mess with the cops and whatnot.
Right. And it depends on what series of crimes we're looking at, because when we go all the way far back as Black Dahlia, we saw that robbery wasn't the motive. You know, there was money laying around that wasn't taken. There was valuables in the premises that weren't taken, that they attempted to make it look more like it was a sexual attack versus a robbery. But we have seen other crime sprees like the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, where jewelry was taken and items were taken, like Nolan mentioned, that was planted at the next crime scene, and so on, kind of rotated through. And the Zodiac talked about leaving his clues. So we go on to show here that it is possible that Jack and Nora split at the end of 1981. I know that Dennis actually states that it's 1982, that Jack went back to Texas, while Dennis and Charles, who was 14 years of age at the time, moved into an apartment in Fair Oaks, and Dennis's younger sisters went to live with their father in Michigan. So now we've got, you know, the girls going back to Michigan, and Nora is back in California, and Jack is in Texas in 1982. So I'm kind of playing around with this thought or idea that we're starting to see murders in Texas. And while I know that Dennis's recollection is pretty close in lots of areas, just not necessarily hitting on the precise time in which Jack and Nora split up. Because again, he's still young, he's not paying attention, and he's probably going off of, you know, key things like when he had explained to me that Jack was with him during Christmas of 1996 when John Benet Ramsey was killed. And we found out that Jack had literally left the family in California when they were vacationing. He took off and left them there and was gone for more than 30 days. That was not something that Dennis remembered, but what he cued in on and what he remembered was that it was during the holidays, and that meant that Jack couldn't have been part of what was going on because he knew that Jack was with them. And then we subsequently found out through Nora's diary that Jack had left for over a month. So I do give some leeway for that time. And the other side of that too is that it's common for Jack to actually go back to Texas to visit his mother during summer times and holidays and things of that notion. So August 21st of 1981, I would still state that there is a possibility that Jack could be responsible for this particular murder, but we now know that he's going to end up shortly back in Texas. We did have another Florence, Italy couple's murder on October 23rd of 1981. Baldi and Cambi, it says. So Stefano Baldi and Susanna Cambi on 23rd of October 1981. Workman Stefano Baldi, 26 years of age, and telephonist Susanna Cambi, 24, who were engaged, were shot and stabbed in a park in the vicinity of Calanzano. Cambi's public area was cut out. Oh, that got interesting all of a sudden. So the female's pubic area was cut out like Danuccio's. An anonymous caller phoned Cambi's mother the morning of the murder to talk to her about her daughter. A few days before the murder, Susanna had told her mother that somebody was tormenting her and even chasing her by car. All right, well, yeah, well, that just led me right back to Black Dahlia, which is interesting that I decided I would even delve back into that particular statement as we climbed into this today. But cutting of the pubic area is basically what we saw with Black Dahlia.
Right. And Black Dahlia didn't occur in a vacuum. There were several other young women killed around the same time. And back to the relation back theory, a lot of the locations where the murders took place and the names of the victims related back to certain things that happened with the Chicago murders, or the lipstick. Is that what they were called? The lipstick murders?
Correct. Yes.
And there's a lot of links between the murders around the Black Dahlia era and the ones that occurred just prior to that in Chicago.
100%. And I didn't actually read, obviously, this, and this is the first time we've seen several of these Florence, Italy couples murders. Now they're saying like Danuccio's. So I'm going to have to go back and look at Danuccio because I don't recall seeing that the pubic area was cut. So this is new information for me, but it does throw it right back into the realm of these types of individuals that are doing this to people. I mean, I don't understand the need for cutting the pubic area, but also to say that they were shot and stabbed seems like overkill, honestly.
Yes. See, really
This sounds
sadistic
a lot.
person did that. Or people.
Right.
It may not just been one person.
Right.
It,
Go ahead,
it
Harriet.
sounds a lot like. Oh no, I was going to say, and Robert Graysmith has a book on
I'm
this.
having a hard time hearing
Sounds a
Harriet.
lot like Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper
Right.
seems to be the first sensational murderer. All kinds, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That Graysmith came out with a book, but he would. That's something that the Ripper would do. And then you got the Venuccio, and you got, So I'm interested to find out what could be the real reasons why these people met the demise. It always has a political thing.
Right. Right. Well, and they look like they're definitely well-to-do. I'm looking at this picture of her here in her fur coat, and he's wearing a suit jacket. I mean, these obviously aren't your lower levels of society if they're dressed like this and having photographs taken, because that was something that you had money to be able to do or have.
Yeah,
So
they
who
look
knows?
affluent for their youth. People that young
Exactly.
usually don't dress that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, that's my thought. All right, so on November 28th of 1981, Joan Webster in Boston, Massachusetts. I wrote that I wanted to research this because we had, let's see, slide 755, 50 megahertz screech, Cambridge, Massachusetts letters, Cipher, Massachusetts. Do you know about Joan Webster in Boston, Massachusetts? Harriet?
I think I just did that one. No, that's, anyways. Oh my God, the one who ended up disappearing after flying home for the holidays for November. Is it November 1981-ish?
Yes, November 28th of 1981, and I don't have any information on her.
Yes,
So
I got plenty. I just did that one about a month or so ago. I think before I got in here. Yeah, or at the same time. Anyways, that ended up being that Jack and his crew apparently knew about that one, and it's Robert Abel. The description of the man with the beard, it's exactly Robert Abel, 1981. Was very troubled, and very, very troubled. She was a Joni Mitchell fan who was the arch enemy, according to what I've read, of oh my God, Janis Joplin. So it's like a really weird reason that he went after her. But I think Jack was the taxi driver that was trying to get this woman not to get into the car with the man who fits the description of Robert Abel.
Oh, so it sounds like you have some information on this particular murder. So where was she flying from?
Definitely. She was coming home, and she's from the New Jersey area. It's in the Santa Claus card information. I decoded all of that, and so she was to go home and then go back up to Harvard. And she meets some guy that they possibly knew, which was because their family was in the aerospace telephone business. Really interesting. And one of the family members is linked to giving money to the re-election campaign for Nixon. So there's a lot of information on them. But
all right, well, maybe we'll have to come back and revisit that. I'll have to figure out what it is that you have, and I'll have
definitely.
to. I put it here. I couldn't figure out why, and I didn't really know what I was looking for, and it's to me like I was looking for you.
He's connected. He's definitely connected. Jack has plenty of information on that, and put that through in that Santa Claus card.
And you mean the Santa Claus card? Which one is that?
It's something that is circa 1981, 82-ish, and it's called the Santa Claus card that went into an envelope with a zillion stamps on it. And I said, I know this system. And You can find it on one of our competitors' website, Zodiac
All right.
stuff.
All right. Well, I will hit you up
Anyway,
about it.
I'll
And
send it
yeah,
to you.
if you have it and you want to send it to me afterwards, then we can revisit her. This is taking us back on
Yeah.
December 21st of 1981. 35-year-old Kenneth Wayne Kugler, East Hammond Drive, Porter, Texas, shot multiple times with a .22 caliber weapon. Question as to the number of suspects. 1983, Kugler's wallet was found near the Peach Creek Bridge on Highway 59 in New Caney, Texas. I wrote tie together. New Caney and Peachtree was the most recent address used in a communication from the last crime spree in Atlanta,
Mhm.
Georgia. So I feel like New Caney, we just, New Caney, Alton Francis Heinous. Highway 59, 1/10 mile north of Roman Forest, New Caney, Texas. So we've got something that's cross-referencing each other here. That where one victim was killed, the wallet is now found on Peach Creek Bridge on Highway 59 in New Caney, Texas. So very, very interesting. So we're going from Porter, Texas to New Caney, Texas, but it seems to be a crossover. And this is why I say I think Jack was already separated from Nora at this point and likely back murders beginning in Texas. Let's see. Communication last crime spree. December 26th, 1981, 40-year-old Harold Brantley Vick inside Summerhill subdivision 2 miles west of Sorters Road in Porter, Texas. So now we've got 2 miles west of Porter, Texas, basically. December 24th, witnesses seen Vick in the Porter Lounge most of the day. Subdivision was under construction. I wanted to research who the subdivision was under construction by because, you know, they used to watch all these mob movies and these people who were building buildings and subdivisions and stuff like that were notorious for burying their murders in the locations that they were going to build something and then just pouring cement over the top of them. Is that your recollection of right? So it made me think to myself, like, all right, who's running the subdivision that's under construction? It says lying beside his blue 1971 Ford truck on the ground. Truck had a tire stuck in the sand. He had been beaten, bludgeoned to death with a large tree limb recovered nearby. Right. And so this all seems to be, I mean, these are probably people we should be looking at as far as who they are, who they may have been connected to, what they were doing, because it seems awfully strange that all of a sudden we've got all of these murders popping up within miles of each other in the same location. On January 8th of 1982, 54-year-old Robert and 38-year-old Janet Gedho, 25 Huntsman Horn, The Woodlands, Texas. Robert was shot upon entry and wife chased to the second-story deck and shot. Business dealings with several people had failed. Again, something I think that needed to be researched because if you had business dealings with several people that had failed, you likely were in with the mob and they wanted you dead if you can't pay them back, right?
Yeah, they always wanted their 2% or more.
Was that all they asked for? I felt like it was like 50%.
Well, if that's what I'm saying, 2% or more. So 2%, and then maybe your daughter or the house, or I mean, I think it still happens today. They just don't talk about it. It's pretty unscrupulous. Right.
Well, on March 16th of 1982, we have Elaine Goss that's murdered in a Ireland home, second wife in Texas. So Goss is the second wife to have been shot. First wife, Goss loses in the same home, in the Ireland home. So did you have anything on Elaine Goss?
No, but I got plenty on the Texas I-45 killer victims, and we can just keep going. But you're bringing up some victims that need to be looked into for me. So.
Yeah, evidently. All in the Texas area when we know Jack, or at least Dennis, has already indicated that Jack has left Nora, or Nora has left Jack, and Jack has gone back to Texas. Now, of course, we can see pictures of Jack here in Texas with his sister and with his mother. The actual date on the back of this, then when it was printed, was April of 82. So that we know that at least by this point in time, by April of 82, or previous to April of 82, because who knows when he actively, had the film produced, he is seen here. And it looks like, I want to say, I can't even really tell by the trees whether or not it looks like we're in springtime versus another time. But again, I mean, some people could sit on film for forever before having it actually produced. So either way, we do see him here in Texas. It says April 11th of 1982, Jack is in Texas with Flova, is seen with Dee also. So Dee is the sister, and confirms Stephen Dewhurst's reporting of Jack leaving Nora and returning to Texas to live with his mom. Now, I find it hard to believe that Jack left Nora, although, I mean, don't get me wrong, this man would pick up and walk off and be gone for weeks at a time without saying a word. But typically speaking, it seems to me that Nora is the one that's leaving Jack for whatever reason, and probably because he picks up and walks off for weeks at a time without saying a word. Who knows what's really
Jack
going
in the
on.
middle of the suit, too?
Yeah, that's him in a suit.
Well, no, he cleans up nicely.
Right? Hey, trying to see if I could see him now. I don't see him wearing a gun or anything like that, but yeah, he definitely is in Texas, based on all of the information given by family members, and of course now by pictures itself. So April 12th of 1982, James Alvin Gorey, 9,000 block of I-45 at Tamina Road, Conroe, Texas. It's a drive-by shooting while the victim was at the place of employment. I don't have much more information on him than that. June 19th of 1982, Antonella Migliorini and Paolo Minardi, Florence, Italy, another set of couples murders. On 19th of June, 1982, mechanic Paolo Minardi, 22, and dressmaker Antonella Migliorini, 20, were shot to death just after having sex in Maynard's car on a provincial road in Montespertoli. Well, I'm getting a tongue workout today. This time, the killer did not have the time to mutilate the female victim, as the road was relatively busy. Several passing motorists had seen the car parked at the side of the road after its interior light had turned on. Minardi was still alive when found, but died some hours later in the hospital due to serious injuries. Minardi is believed to have heard or seen the killer approaching and attempted to drive away, only to lose control of his car and drive into a ditch on the other side of the road. Another reconstruction of the events suggests that after shooting the couple, the killer drove Minardi's car for a few meters to hide the vehicle and the bodies in a woodland area nearby, only to lose control of the car and abandon it in the ditch, where it was discovered by motorists only a few minutes later. That would be interesting if the killer not only shot them, but then tried to hop in their car, drive it away, and then has to make it back to his vehicle or wherever it is that he is.
It seems odd.
Maybe the first story was true, that Minardi tried to escape being shot while he was being attacked and drove off.
He was too badly wounded and lost control of the car.
Yeah. July 1st of 1982, 22-year-old Tamara Ellen McCurry disappeared in Galveston, last seen getting into a yellow or orange van. So again, I want everybody to remember that we're now literally almost through an entire year. So we're in July of 1982. We saw the murders pick up in October, November of 81. We have reports that Jack is not in California anymore, that he is in Texas. We're not seeing any murders in California. We're just seeing murders in Texas at this point, where Jack is purportedly known to be. August 17th of 1982, Hirsch Friedman car bombing. So the Atlanta attorney, I wanted to research. This is an Atlanta attorney. He's a casino owner in South Lake Tahoe. It says several agencies joining to probe Friedman blast. So I have quite the article here on this. It says a task force of investigators from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Fulton County Police Department, and possibly from several other agencies will be formed to probe the car bombing that seriously injured Atlanta lawyer Hearst Friedman, according to GBI and Fulton police office officials. Okay, so I guess what I was coming about here is this car bombing thing that has occurred just like the casino owner in South Lake Tahoe. Again, probably another mob-related type bombing. It says GBI Director Phil Peters said the task force, expected to include about 10 investigators, is still being organized, but may involve personnel from the Atlanta Police Bureau, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So the reason why I brought this one up is because, not that I thought Jack might have been involved with it, but this was a relation to what was going on in Atlanta, Georgia, with all of the parents of the victims of the Atlanta, Georgia child killer cases. So I wanted to throw in with that one of the notices that came from one of the family members of these children that were killed. And it says, it continues to stagger the imagination of how poor Blacks can be denied their civil rights almost 20 years after the passage of a law that guarantees it for them. Hearst Friedman is truly blessed because the same Civil Rights Act of 1964 that was designed to protect the civil rights of all Americans, regardless of race, color, religion, or national origin, is the very same vehicle by which you exercised authority to officially enter his investigation. Mr. Reynolds, we seek the same equal protection under the law and trust that you will move with the same speed in responding to my call to give relief to the parents of Atlanta's missing and murdered children. So they're basically saying one white attorney receives more dedication from law enforcement in trying to determine who killed them than 26 Black children from the same area.
It sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of the most disgusting things I think I've ever had to read aloud. So September of 1982, we have out of Dennis Kaufman's book, my two younger sisters, Geneva and Mary, come back from Michigan. The apartment that we were living in was too small for all of us, so we rented a 3-bedroom house in North Highlands. November of 1982, it says, Jack comes back from Texas and moves back in. January of 1983, Jack gets a job as a security guard. He would be placed at a big computer plant, Hewlett Packard, in Roseville, California. That is extremely interesting because we see, let's see if I can tell how many more. Yes, we have one last. So he says that in November, let me quote this correctly. November of 1982 is when Jack comes back from Texas. The last murder in this series in 1982 in Texas is October 2nd of 1982. Gloria Ann Stefan, Alford Road, Magnolia, Texas, and was found in a gravel pit, strangled with a ligature and stabbed to death, last seen at a convenience store in the 13,000 block of North Shore in Houston, Texas. Her 1975 light blue Plymouth station wagon was found on October 3rd, 1982 along Highway 290 in Kerrville, Texas. Now, let me remind everybody what type of cross connections this particularly has. If we go all the way back as far as Black Dahlia, we had what they called the Magnolia murders. This is happening in Magnolia, Texas. Whether or not that was meant to be some type of a cross connection or not, the gravel pit is definitely something that we have seen in many of the murders that are, when I think about gravel pits, I think about, again, mob, a place to bury a body, many of the murders and drop points for lots of victims. It says that she was last seen at a convenience store. We know that Laura Miller, Tim Miller's daughter, was also taken from a convenience store. Again, this is out of the Houston area in Texas, and this vehicle being moved to Highway 290 in Kerrville, Texas, is something very similar to lots of the murders that we saw in the Black Dahlia realm and many more, where the suspect, if we went all the way back to Texarkana, Phantom murders, we'd see the same thing. The killer had actually taken the vehicle and moved it to another location a few miles away, which means he had to ultimately find his way back to wherever his first starting point was as well. But to take note that October 2nd is where we see that stop. And then we hear from Dennis that October of 1982, Nora and family moves into a 3-bedroom house in North Highlands. November of 1982, Jack is said to have returned from Texas and moved in with Nora on Auburn Boulevard. So I'm just putting this information together. While Jack's in Texas, these murders are occurring. Now we're going to see those murders actually kind of take a sidestep to the fact that Jack is back in California. And he states that Jack is back in California in November. We see our first murder back in California on November 15th of 1982 with Deanna Johnson. Dennis and I actually had some personal hands-on experience with this particular victim's friend. We had spoke with her. We had gone out to a location where they believed that it was possible that she had been killed. We had poked around. We had looked at a lot of things. Needless to say, I did feel that it was prudent to actually put this into the PowerPoint presentation. And this wasn't because at the time I knew that Jack had moved back at this particular time. This was literally because it was a murder that seemed to have fit the bill. So basically, Deanna Johnson kidnapped in Vacaville, California after leaving a party to walk home. She had blunt force trauma to the head. She was found near railroad tracks on Elmira Road, close to Travis Air Force Base. She was wrapped in a sleeping bag. And this particular murder was one that I could clock on the murder map from Sandy Betts. So a couple things. Railroad tracks have played huge into these crimes. If you've not heard all of the different drop-offs and locations, blunt force trauma is definitely something we know. Wrapped in a sleeping bag, obviously to conceal the body for as long as possible. But again, Jack is back in California, and we see our first murder in over a year in California. 1983 to 1990, Jack and Nora are living in Roseville, California on Kirby Way. Jack gets a job with Hewlett Packard as a security guard. Per Dennis's book, Nora calls Jack's work, and his boss said he went home early. Jack finally arrived home, and when questioned, Jack tells Nora he had to work late. Nora knew he was lying, but thought he might be cheating when he could have been killing. And that caused a fight. So I think that, again, we just got done talking about how Jack could up and, disappear and be gone. He obviously has no problem with lying. Usually he just says, peace, I'm going to go get some cigarettes, and just doesn't even come back. So to find out that he is literally not telling the truth to Nora when he is supposed to be working is insane. But even more so, he's gotten this job after actually, I think we're actually going to come up to it next. So before I say it, yeah, 1982 to 1985. This is Dennis Kaufman's book once again. August of 1983, Mom calls Jack at work. His boss told her that Jack had left work early. When Jack finally got home, Mom asked him where he'd been, and Jack said that he had to work late. He didn't know Mom had talked to his boss. Mom knew he was not being truthful. She thought he was seeing another woman. Looking back at this situation, Jack may still have been killing or planning to. He could have used this security uniform to gain trust in potential victims. Just a little while after Jack came home, him and Mom were fighting. My sister's boyfriend and I were in the bedroom while this was going on. We didn't want to be in the same room. Mom started screaming for help, so Chuck and I rushed in the living room. Jack had his hands around her neck, and when he saw us, he ran in the kitchen. We were making sure Mom was not hurt while Jack was in the kitchen, and we looked up, and Jack has a pan of boiling water. Jack flung the hot water towards us, and I managed to dodge the water, but Chuck was not. Chuck screamed and ran out the front door. Mom was right behind him. I went into the bedroom where my younger sister was. She was 8 months pregnant. While I was in the bedroom with Mary, I heard Jack say, "Let's see who is brave now." I knew at that point that he had gotten his gun. I ripped the screen out of the window and helped my sister outside. I had just made it out when the bedroom door opened. It was Jack, and he was pointing his gun. If anybody would have been inside, I believe he would have shot them. We all went to Chuck's parents' house, and Mom called the police and told them what had happened. A few hours later, Jack was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon, and eventually Jack was able to have the charges reduced to a misdemeanor. He was sentenced to 60 days in jail and 3 years probation. He was able to keep his job as a security guard. Mom eventually moved back in with Jack. I never went back. I was mad at Mom for going back, but I realize now that she didn't have much choice. While Jack was serving his 60-day sentence, I went by the house to see my younger brother. Mom told me that I shouldn't be there because if Jack were to find out, he would be pissed. She said that anybody that had contributed to him going to jail was not welcome in his house. I didn't see her or my brother for 2 years after that. I went to work installing hot tubs and rented a room. One day after work, I saw my mother and my younger brother come walking up. It had been 2 years since I had seen them. She came to apologize for what had happened, and she said that Jack wasn't mad anymore. And that led into 1985. Mom, Jack, and Charles were living in Roseville, California. What I want to bring up about that, and they mentioned here, is that he was able to keep a security job. You can't even get a restraining order these days and keep a job like that, let alone have actively attempted to shoot somebody, strangle somebody, right?
So he wasn't charged with domestic violence either.
Well, he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, right? But then
that's but nothing for choking her.
Right? And that's reduced to a misdemeanor. Like, you pull a gun on somebody and that's reduced to a misdemeanor. This is the
boiling
luckiest
water
man.
A couple kids.
What's that?
And fling hot boiling water at a couple kids.
Right? I don't even understand how he is so lucky with law that is even a thing.
Well, Nixon was still alive.
Charles Manson was real lucky with the law too.
Right?
I'm saying Nixon was still alive, and I'm seeing a lot of these decoded missives going well into the 80s. He's no longer working for the USA government, so to speak. He's working for the Holy See. So, a lot of things going on there. But you brought about Hewlett Packard. I believe they're very well connected to NASA. They did a lot with the computers. So that could be the solid reason why they said, we got to keep this guy as a security guard. It's just strange, the politics.
So, so I read that a little bit ahead of time, but we'll come back to it because I do have some information in here. All right. So it looks like I have some FBI FOIA file information that I had entered in here. It looks like this is a follow-up to my letter to you of October 27th. This is a letter that has gone to Quantico, Virginia. I am not sure who, because they've redacted who, but it does mention the UPI story obtained by computer from the source reported the adding of 2 victims' names, making a total of some 21. So he's discussing the Green River case and the possibility of how it cross-connects with the Zodiac killing cases, noting that this is a similarity between the Rosicrucian cross and rose symbol worn by Crowley and Zodiac's crossed circle astrological symbol. Now, I know that the Rosicrucian was something that Stephen Dewhurst tried to pick up on in his book, right, Harriet?
Yeah, and somewhere in that is the Roman Catholic Church and the long history. So when you bring up about Rosicrucians, I think the ancient history of what led to so many things and the crosses, so much. Okay.
But do you really think that has anything to do with the Zodiac's crosshair symbol? I mean, honestly, I don't see the connection.
No,
I think it's a coincidence.
I think,
but there's a lot of stuff about the Rosicrucians in the books on the RFK assassination, and Sirhan Sirhan had some affiliation with
really?
LA area Rosicrucians.
Yeah.
And I want to say the guy from JPL Laboratories. Jet Propulsion Laboratories, the guy that started it. He was actually second in command to Aleister Crowley, but they had affiliations with Rosicrucians as well.
He's working on Jet Propulsions while working with a cultist.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he experimented heavily in black magic. Jack Parsons is his name. Really, I would Google it. He's a very fascinating figure. He was a rocket scientist. He started And everyone thinks JPL doesn't stand for jet propulsion because they were working on rocket propulsion, not jet propulsion. They think it stands for Jack Parsons Laboratory. So,
Huh.
fascinating
And so
individual.
Jack
Died in an
Parsons was
explosion at his house in near
really
Pasadena. Yeah,
Pasadena, California.
yeah.
Wow. Well, so maybe there is some type of tie in here. I think that the reason why Stephen Dewhurst had mentioned Rosicrucian is that he thought the symbol on a ball cap that was found in a picture or in an unprocessed film that Jack had, he believed was a Rosicrucian symbol. But when I read it, it looked to me to be University of Las Vegas Rebels. So I was kind of, yeah, I was a little off on that one as far as what his belief was. I would have to go back to his book to see what it was that he thought Rosicrucians were involved with, but he has somehow linked Rosicrucian just like this individual has back in 1983. See another one, December 23rd of 1983. It says, "Dear Sir, the timing of the disappearance of a possible Green River killer victim, Kimmy Kai Pitzer, aka Reichs, 16 of Bellevue, Washington, possibly could fit the Zodiac pattern. She reportedly was last seen in Seattle." So I think that we've cleared this now, obviously, knowing that the Green River killer has been caught. It does not mean that they are not part of a group. And that there weren't multiple people involved, just there's obviously some heavy connections or cross connections that can be made between these crimes and murder sprees. Let's see. Dear Sir, so December 30th of 1983, the decapitation and mutilation of a young woman, including attempted removal of her heart in a ritual homicide near San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge this week, certainly smacks of the Zodiac. So do we know who this one is, Harriet?
No, but it's probably out there for me. But I know Robert Abel had a tie to the Bay Area briefly.
Yeah.
Through some of his people that were connected at Stanford. So it's just that's a slight possibility. He was that macabre. He would be butchering people, taking off hands, everything. So we don't want in case people are eating.
So my numbers are out of, okay, and my FOIA files are out of order here. So I'm showing a communication for December 30th of 1983. It means we're likely about to come up on this actual murder because it seems that this is chronologically out of order. Let's see. Dewhurst believes January of 1983, Jack is said to begin a lengthy career with Hewlett Packard in Roseville, California as a sergeant on the security team contracted through Pinkerton Security. This is the first real job Jack has had for quite some time. January 15th of 1983, 70-year-old Lee Leslie and 57-year-old Raymond Mitchell on the 27,000 block of Dry Creek, Magnolia, Texas. Both men had been known to meet other men in the Houston area and welcomed them to visit in Magnolia. Lee in the closet of the northeast bedroom and Mitchell in the closet of the southeast bedroom. Both had been beaten and stabbed to death. Lee's maroon 1978 Pontiac was missing. Car found February 8th, 1983 in the 1900 block of Indiana Street. In Houston, and January 20th of 1983, FBI receives word from a psychic that the Atlanta, Georgia murders are related to the recent Tampa, Florida murders, which the FBI found did occur. I noted I was going to need to research that, so we're going to end that here because we're down to our last few seconds. Is there anything that either of you would like to comment on?
Yes. Wasn't Elizabeth Short buried in Oakland?
I believe her father was from Oakland, right, Harriet?
Yeah, she was buried in Oakland. Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, she died in L.A. She lived in L.A. Originally, she was from Illinois. It just seems odd, but I guess if her father lived there, that would be the reason.
Her father worked for some type of a naval installation, right? Making torpedoes, or
I think Mare Island. Mare Island, I think.
Naval
That's
shipyard.
The Vallejo area.
Huh. Yeah. So no,
Right.
yeah, Mare Island area. Yeah. So we're in the right area. You're absolutely correct.
It's Zodiac territory.
Exactly. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get some of this research done and have better answers in regards to some of these crimes. I want to thank you both for being here today, and I want everybody to have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
You too.
Happy
Stay
weekend.
warm. Stay
Happy
dry.
weekend.
Oh,